Welcome to episode 181 of the Actual Astronomy Podcast, our Christmas Space-tacular edition. I'm Chris, and joining me is Shane. We are amateur astronomers that love looking up at the night sky, and this podcast is for anyone else that likes going out under the stars. So in this episode, we'll talk about our favorite observations of 2021 equipment, our future observing plans and past failures and dreams for the future. So yeah, Shane, what do you think? Christmas special?
Yeah, well, end of the year, I always like to do a recap of things that were good or bad or whatever in general. And I like this as a topic for astronomy. It's nice to reflect back on the year that was and just sort of see what I guess maybe was learned or gained, and then how that sets us up for next year a little bit.
Yeah, Christmas and astronomy good, COVID bad. All right, we'll move on. So I actually thought that my original idea was that we would do like a talk trash about telescopes kind of thing, but I couldn't really get too much together on that. So anyway,
yeah, when I saw that, I was like, I don't really know what he's going for there.
Anyway, your idea was much better. And then like recently when I was out doing some astronomy, like on Friday evening, it had snowed a little bit, and it was kind of like observing out in a winter wonderland there. So it was kind of neat. We also had a recent email from our friend Larry over in Japan, and while Santa has Comet and Vixen, Larry was using his Vixen to view Comet, Leonard, that is. So anyway, kind of got it into the Christmas spirit a little bit early there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm excited because it's going to be a dark Christmas this year.
Yes.
No moon.
No moon. Yeah. No, that's pretty cool. Hopefully we, are able to see whatever that sky provides. Our conditions haven't been too great lately, but hopefully it'll clear up.
Yeah, hopefully people shut their lights off, because all the Christmas lights. What's up with that? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, people have some pretty bright lights. This is some pretty bright lights. I don't know what they were doing. They were shining these giant spotlights into the city. I don't know if it was at a sports stadium or something. I couldn't really figure out where it was in the city, but I could see them from way out on the prairie. So yeah, there's some pretty neat things to see right now coming up in the Christmas season. We've got about kind of sort of plus or minus about 2 weeks here where a lot of people are going to be on and off. Oddly enough, I'm working more. I worked on Saturday. I worked all day. So you were saying you were off on Friday, and I'd taken some days off there the past couple of weeks, I guess, making up for it now. So anyway, towards the end of the Christmas season, you're going to be able to see all 8 planets in the evening sky. So there's something to do.
Yeah. You don't get that lineup, all that regularly. So it's kind of a neat thing to take advantage of.
Yeah. I mean, with the Earth as well being one of those 8 planets. And if you're out here where we observe, the Earth comes up to meet the sky, because it's pretty flat out there. It's pancake kind of city.
Yeah. You see a lot of Earth. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I always think about telescopes even a lot more at this time of year, and maybe even more than I otherwise would. I received my first telescope for Christmas when I was about 6. Did you ever get a telescope for Christmas?
No, I did not. A friend of mine had one at an early age. I don't recall how old we were. But in my early formative years, I was just like a sponge for information. So I would read a lot and just fantasize over star charts. I like maps in general, but star charts were super cool to me. So my early astronomy days were actually not really looking up, but looking at a lot of paper.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah.
I was always interested in the stars because, even from the town that I grew up in, probably pretty close to like, maybe not quite magnitude 6, but getting pretty close to that when I was a kid. I mean, even now it's probably 5.5 in the backyard where I spent a lot of time with my first telescopes. But when I was 6, my uncle gave me a little refractor, like not even like a decent, quality task. I'm pretty sure it probably had a plastic lens and everything in it. But I was pretty excited, and it had like a little wobbly, like 10-inch high kind of plastic leg tripod that attached physically to the telescope tube. And I was pretty excited. And I plunked that down on a coffee table, and they went next door to a neighbor's to hang out or whatever. And, we turned off all the lights in the in their house and stuck it in the window. And I looked out and I looked at Sirius, and I was pretty sure that I would be seeing like aliens and spaceships and all kinds of stuff zooming around. I had all these. I remember this like so vividly because what imprinted on me was not what I saw, but what I didn't see, which was basically I just saw that the star looked brighter and didn't really look any different. You didn't see it as a circle, and you certainly didn't see any planets and no aliens sort of zooming around it either. And I was incredibly disappointed in this experience. I remember.
Right on.
So it's one of those things. But anyway, then like a dozen or so years later, I just after came back from England and had met some of the folks from the BAA. A girlfriend of mine had bought a pair of binoculars for me and the Backyard Astronomer's Guide for Christmas. And I don't know whether it was my previous experience or what I had in my mind, but again, I was very disappointed.
Yeah. You have these expectations of like, the images that you see really in magazines, and it, it can be a little offsetting the first time.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think though, it was more like the physical presence of getting a binocular and being told to use these for astronomy. It's kind of like, your parents telling you when you turn 16, they're going to buy you a new set of wheels, and you have it in your head that you're going to get a car, and they give you like a unicycle, and
yeah.
Sort of like that maybe would bring it sort of down to earth for people, right? That's kind of how I felt. But it actually was pretty good. And I actually wore those binoculars out. You can see through them. I still had them. You can see into them and see how binoculars work now, because all the plastic has become pretty rough and brittle, and so kind of has broken apart in places. You can like look right into those binoculars now. So anyhow, have you received many astronomy Christmas presents over the years, Shane?
Trying to think. No, not Christmas gifts. Unless you count the ones that I just buy for myself. But no, some anniversary gifts and things like that, but nothing for Christmas, I don't believe. No. Yeah.
I got the first Christmas present my wife gave me was Ruckle's Moon Atlas.
Oh, yeah, very nice.
Yeah, that was really good. I think it was $34, and within about 2 years, it was worth about $340. I was like, oh, I should have bought more.
Yeah, but I think it went up a lot.
Yeah, I think it's been like reissued and re-released. Another year, she bought me a copy of The Immortal Fire Within, which is the biography of E.E. Barnard. She's bought me a whole ton of mostly books over the years. And then recently she bought me the Pentax XW this year for Christmas, which I've already used like once or twice. Pretty neat. I just had the box sitting here, and so I've had a few things, but as far as your favorite gear from 2021, Shane, what have you enjoyed using and looking through from the past year?
So for me, I guess it would be probably the Bino viewer is what I've listed here. That's my second or third time, I think, with a Bino viewer, but my first real serious time using it. The first time I don't count at all. The second time, I didn't give it enough of a go, but anyway, I've really enjoyed it this past year. Just the level of comfort that it introduces to observing is unmatched by anything else. And the fact that you can just sit at the eyepiece and not really have to like give your eye a rest is incredible. It's just such a more immersive way to observe. I've really, really enjoyed it, and I'm planning to use it a lot more extensively in 2022. and just in a variety of different telescopes as well to see how it operates. And the thing that it's kind of led me to question a little bit, and I mentioned this when Mark Radici was on last week, is that it's got me thinking a little bit about a bino telescope, because that would be kind of the ultimate way to do observing with two eyes. So anyway, I've really enjoyed that. But a close second was my APM 30 millimeter UFF eyepiece. It's just such a good eyepiece, and it's one of these eyepieces that's super easy to use. It's super comfortable, an amazing flat field right to the edge, and it's not like a super wide field. I think it's 70 degrees or something like that. But it's quite enjoyable. I really like that eyepiece a lot. It's quite light, and it's been really fun to just pan through the sky with that thing. So yeah, I guess those would probably be my top two. Maybe some honorable mentions to my 50 millimeter Borg FL telescope. It's such a beautiful little telescope, and provide such a great image. That's been a lot of fun to use as well throughout the year.
Cool.
How about yourself? What's your favorite piece of gear from 2021?
Yeah, I think, I haven't had the Pentax 5 out enough really to put that in this year's mix, but I think that Masuyama 32 millimeter, which was the eyepiece, which I had kind of longed for so long, which I don't know why I didn't get it sooner, because it's like even really like that expensive as far as eyepieces go. But it just has this beautiful, sharp, at least in longer focal length refractors, field of view and huge light throughput. And it's very, very comfortable and easy to look through. So it's like about an 80-degree field of view eyepiece. And I think it might have a little bit more power than 32 millimeters should provide, but anyway, it's just a really, really neat eyepiece. I like the way it looks. Not that should matter too much, but I think it looks really nice. I think the price was pretty affordable. It's like around $300 American. And then, yeah, it works really well on all my scopes. And for such a low power wide field eyepiece, it's very light. And I've been really, really impressed with the wide field images and how sharp they are. Yeah, it's not totally sharp on the edge, especially like in my mini Borg, which is f5 50 millimeter refractor. But it is what it is. It's a super wide field, reasonably inexpensive eyepiece that's lightweight. I can trade around. It works well on all my scopes. So it's a real tool, right? Like it can just be used interchangeably with everything, and that's super, super useful.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. That's an eyepiece I still want to look through. It's always been on my list as well. As a eyepiece of interest. So I'm excited to see what that one's all about.
Yeah, it'd be nice to do a comparison. And the mini Borg, I think I gotta say, not that I think, I definitely enjoyed that tiny little scope way, way more than I thought I would. It took me a bit to get used to it, like 3 or 4 sessions to really get into it, because it's so small. It balances a little bit oddly, and the way you have to move it is definitely different than moving any other telescope I've ever owned, just because it's just so short. But for a telescope that can give you basically 10-degree true field of view, which is pretty much wider than just about anything else out there, that's really quite astounding. It's pretty amazing to have this just massive wide field of view. And then the ability to then switch eyepieces. And, I didn't think I would do this as much as I do, like using my like Pentax 3.5 millimeter in it and other eyepieces that are pretty high power for when the planets are up. Because although it's an achromat and it's f5 and not really designed for that, it actually, performs pretty well. So the views, through it on planets kind of has surprised me quite a bit as well. But just kind of wondering, where does your 50 millimeter FL Borg fluorite fit in all this?
It's wonderful. I think it's a little easier to use because of the focal length. Like you mentioned, the movement is weird with the mini Borg, and it is, because it is the size of a finder. It's really small. And if you are using 2-inch eyepieces in that thing, then it's even more ridiculous. But like you said, then you have this beautiful wide field, and it is well corrected. In fact, that little telescope is almost like I think somebody may have wrote in and mentioned this in an email, but it's like it's almost like a star chart telescope. Like it sort of provides a view of what you would see in the Pocket Sky Atlas almost. And that's super cool. And now how the FL stacks up, it's not as wide of a field, but it is such a crisp little telescope, and the lightweightness of it just makes it a joy to use. I love it. And because it's a little bit of a longer focal length too, I just think it's more proper to use that in 1.25" mode. You still get, I think, close to a 4 or 4.5 degree field of view, if I'm not mistaken, with a 24 millimeter panoptic.
Yep.
So you're still getting a substantial field, and it's just in this beautiful little package. So I quite like it a lot. It's probably a telescope that I'll use a lot going forward, especially just due to the portability and how I can pack it up with the mount, with the tripod, with everything, and just go real quick.
Yeah. I would love to get that same scope and then buy the reducer for it, and kind of go all in on that little 50 millimeter range. I think that is that would be just the ultimate. Hey, you could get 2 sets of those and make your binoscope.
Maybe, I'm kind of thinking again about that. I that's why I had too many Borgs, is because I was going to make a binoscope, and then I sold one of them to you just because I didn't think I would really want to go down that path. But now that I've amassed an eyepiece collection for bino viewing, I've overcome one of the major hurdles of binoscoping. So yeah, I think I probably could set something up here, but I don't know. It would take a lot of money just to have a 50 millimeter binoscope. And I think, if I'm going to go down the binoscope path, I want it to be of a fairly substantial aperture, like probably about 120 millimeter, and ideally 150, but that's getting quite large and quite expensive. So I'm not sure that that'll become a reality. But yeah, I think if I go binoscoping, it'll be a bigger aperture.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I always thought that would be really cool and something that I would do eventually. But every time I start wading into those waters and start no one thing is cost prohibitive, but the whole thing is cost prohibitive, if you ask me. So yeah,
it's pretty hard to just do that. I think if that's something you want, you have to kind of have a bit of a long-term plan to get there.
Yeah.
And like I said, I've got the eyepiece part of it out of the way. Like I've got doubles of like a 24 millimeter panoptic for the wide field viewing. I've got the 13 millimeter Naglers for sort of mid-range wide field, and then I have 8.5 millimeter Pentax XF, which aren't exactly wide field at, I don't know what they are, 62 or 65 degrees, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But they're wide enough, for decent high-powered wide field views. And then, I've got a lot of minimum glass pairs as well. If I want to get into some real kind of, real fine viewing of high contrast, I can do that too. So anyway, that's all out of the way. So then there's the future cost if I go down this path of the binoscope itself, but also I don't think any of the mounts I have would be able to handle a binoscope. So, you're looking at a new mount as well. And those are not insignificant for a binoscope. So
no.
We'll see. I think I might make some kind of a move in 2022. Now I'm not sure if it'll be a binoscope. So the two things I'm weighing, A, binoscope, B, could be like 150 millimeter refractor, likely an achromat of some kind. And just not sure which path I want to go down yet.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So what were your favorite views through all this crazy gear in 2021?
Well, the view that I picked, my favorite observation, is not, it might catch a few people by surprise because it doesn't involve any of the gear I mentioned. and it doesn't even involve the night sky. It was of the sun in hydrogen alpha through my little 35 millimeter lunt, and it was a prominence. You get these prominence like it's almost like two prominences that kind of like form a corkscrew almost together, like a twisting prominence. And I've seen pictures of them, but I've never seen one visually before. And over the summer, one appeared, and it was just again, the scene was really nice. It was just a beautiful view, and it was kind of fleeting. It didn't last too long. Like after about an hour, it had lost some of its form already. But anyway, during that time, I enjoyed the observation, and I spent a lot of time at the eyepiece, it's kind of strange for me actually to do that, because the way I typically observe in hydrogen alpha is I will have a view of maybe 5 to 10 minutes in duration, and then I park it and I go do things around the house, and then I come back an hour or two later and I have another view to see how it's evolved. But when I saw this twisting prominence, I probably sat at the eyepiece for close to an hour just observing it and how it changed. So anyway, that was my number one. How about you? What was your favorite observation of the year?
Well, I have to say, I don't like observing in hydrogen alpha because I have to go take a meteor shower afterwards to get cleaned up. Anyway, so yeah, I had a few things, like none of these really, I mean, sort of stand out as the number one thing, but getting back down to the grasslands for 2 trips back to back, and doing some, DSP, like Dark Sky Preserve outreach in the Grasslands National Park with park staff was really great. And we had really good and clear skies, at least one night at both locations, which was remarkable considering how crappy and smoky the skies were in general around that time. But sort of surrounding that time, we had good clear skies down there, which was really awesome. And then, kind of midweek and even before that, being able to start observing at my dark sky place that I got this year, which was super exciting. And the Massiema 32 and having my dark sight led to having a really amazing observation of Messier 31, the Andromeda Galaxy, through Mike's 12-inch one night out there. That was like etched in my mind. That's probably among the most memorable things that I looked at this year, which might seem really kind of standard, in a way, like really, basic, but most people find Messier 31, the Andromeda Galaxy, is one of the few things they look at. It's sort of something I've looked at, oh my goodness, thousands of times I must have looked at the Andromeda Galaxy now. Anyway, and but seeing it really wide field in Mike's scope with that Massiema, because I think the one thing I didn't think that eyepiece would work very well in a reflector, and so my expectations were set extremely low. And then as well, I had noticed that it had really good light throughput, but when we dropped it in the 12-inch, which really gathers a lot of light, it almost was like extending that telescope by another 2 or 3 inches. It was pretty surprising. We were both pretty shocked at the view that we had of some pretty fine details in the dark lanes in M31, the Messier 31, the Andromeda Galaxy. Super cool. But also, some of the other stuff was like just watching that lunar eclipse with my I think I had my Takahashi, my 60 out that night. Maybe it was my Borg Mini. It was one or the other. And then just kind of like using all that gear. Like I've really been using a lot of my stuff. Like, my wife, as I'm sure your wife says, Shane, like, do you really need all these telescopes? You may have heard this before.
Well, I question it sometimes if I need all these telescopes, because it is a lot, but I do use them all at different times. So I can justify it.
Yeah. Like in the past 6 weeks, I've had my $100 SD80 out 2 or 3 times. I've had my 60 millimeter tack out 3 or 4 times. I've had my 100 millimeter tack out 3 times. and the mini Borg out 2 or 3 times. So, all these telescopes are seeing probably, at least an average amount of use. They're all getting out quite a bit. Sometimes I throw them in the car and I go observing, and once or twice it was too cold to set them up, but I took them out. I took my binoculars, just did binocular observing, but they went with me. And more often than not, though, I've been setting them up. Like I set the 60 up on Friday night, even when it was so cold, because that telescope was just the scope that was going to work best that night. It was going to be too cold to set up anything bigger, so I took my smallest scope, or one of my smaller scopes.
Yeah, and just back to your comment about using the Masuyama in Mike's telescope, looking at M31, something you've looked at many, many times. This is one of the reasons why I like to try different gear out. Buy an eyepiece. If you like it, cool, you keep it. If you don't like it, maybe you sell it. Trying different telescopes, because all of this stuff, when you take these variables and substitute in different pieces, will present the sky differently. And sometimes you'll discover, like, maybe your Masuyama all of a sudden is like going to unveil, images of things that you never really saw before. Maybe you're seeing detail in objects that wasn't there previously. And that's a game changer, for me. So that's why I love trying this different stuff. Life is short, so you want the best views possible when you're out there. And, it's fun to mess around and see, what really works well for you. And when you find something, it's just like, you want to reobserve everything you've ever looked at again.
Yeah.
Because you're like, what have I been missing? And what can I see now as a result?
Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly. And the other thing, the last thing was Comet Leonard. I've enjoyed that as much of a looking at Comet Leonard experience as the adventure of trying to see it by getting up in the morning and kind of going out in the evening the other night. Even though on, I think I've been out 4 or 5 times to see it, and I've seen it twice. So I'm not even batting 50-50 on this one. But just the adventure and the trying to see it, and I think that's one of those things that I think either, it's a type of person that's going to enjoy doing astronomy, or maybe it's something that people learn after a while, but it's the going out and sort of the experiencing of the night sky and being in the presence of the original articles of those planets, and not just looking at, something online, but interacting with it in some way, whether we're going out and hunting them up ourselves, or like Alan Dyer was recently, trying to take some photos of it, going out and interacting with the universe and doing these activities, I think is really, really a lot of fun. So even if I don't see it, like, even though Friday was a total failure, I think it makes for some light entertainment for you and our listeners. And then as well, kind of gets me, better prepared for my next session. Even though if I don't get to see Comet Leonard, it's still not a waste. I'll carry forward, some of the stuff that I'm kind of learning to adapt to the cold a little bit better, and maybe even getting a little bit more observing in this winter because of it. So kind of neat stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And these little instruments are just ideal for the cold weather. So it just it's a different way to observe, and it's it's just fun to try different stuff.
Yeah. So how about 2022? Any big observing plans? Anything exciting on the proverbial horizon, or event horizon, maybe in this case?
Well, so the only one really on my radar right now is the Sirius B observation, which we talked about in the last podcast. I want to try to get that again. I failed last year. So that's high on the list. But outside of that, I really haven't given it a lot of thought. I'm not too sure what I want to observe. There's always going to be the planets. Like Mars is going to be at opposition, I think, in December next year. So, that always becomes a priority whenever Mars comes to opposition every 2 years. So towards the tail end, I did a brief look at comets. It looks like there's a Mag 6 comet in the summertime. And I think, like, visible all night for us. I think it'll be a little higher up in the sky. Huh. So, that always kind of intrigues me a little bit. So we'll have to keep our eye on that. But then it's probably just a continuation of what I've been working on for a little while. So, I want to continue working on the RASC double star observing list. I kind of parked that and got away from it. I want to return. I want to keep observing Hidden Treasures by O'Meara, just see what I can see with those ones. And I want to make a bigger focus, pun not intended. It just happened, but yeah. But I want to spend more time on the moon. I really do neglect it, and I have to stop. So I want to observe more lunar stuff.
Yes. You know why the restaurant failed on the moon, though, right?
I don't even know if I want to know, actually.
Because it had absolutely no atmosphere.
Yeah. That would add up.
It would. Yeah. I'm looking forward to trying to get some Mercury observations in here at the start of the year. January 7th, we have greatest eastern elongation, meaning that Mercury is going to be well visible in the evening sky. I've got my site all picked out. I was trying to pull it out of the twilight the other night. I didn't get it. But again, this failed Comet Leonard observation is well worth my while, I think, because I'm kind of getting a spot nailed down where I'm going to be able to make some great Mercury observations in the evening as well as in the morning sky. If I don't get it from my yard, because I can actually see Mercury from my backyard, so I can go and set up and go in, get warm, and then go out, make some Mercury observations, and then come in and have breakfast. Or actually, it's dark so late right now that I can have breakfast and then observe Mercury half the morning before the sun comes up, it seems. So I'm really looking forward to that. So we got the Eastern elongation on January 7th, and then greatest Western elongation in the morning on February 16th. So I'm looking forward to those two events. As well, we have sort of a bit of a redo. November 8th, we have that lunar eclipse coming out. This is a full lunar eclipse. We get the whole thing visible here, though. I think it's going to be fairly late at night. So we're going to be, I think it's late at night anyway. Anyway, we get to see the whole thing. So it's going to be a lot of the night. So that should be hopefully something that we're able to see. And then like you, the Mars opposition on December 8th, just a month later, might be worthwhile trying to get south if we can get this pandemic a little bit further behind us. And certainly I hope we do, although I was really hoping for better Christmas this year than it seems that we're going to get, but hopefully for next year, by the time we get around to this time, we'll be sitting on a beach in Texas or something, looking at the Mars opposition. I don't know, but I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I think that'd be awesome. Or go to the Winter Star Party in Florida. I think that would be fun. So yeah, we'll see what happens with the pandemic, but I would love to do some traveling for astronomy for sure.
Yeah. How about for the podcast? We're going to have a podcast chat here, I think, over the holidays. I'm looking forward to that. Got some ideas cooking.
Yeah. We'll see what we can do to enhance it a little bit. And we are nearing that 100,000 listen mark here real soon. So that'll be pretty cool too.
Yeah, I think we're hoping we've done 100,000. We'll do 100,000 listens almost guaranteed by the time we hit our 21st month. But I think we're hoping to do like 100,000 listens in 2022. I think we're hoping to kind of double what we've done so far. And I think we're like getting pretty close on track. We're sometimes above 2,000 listens a week, and sometimes we're just below it. I think we're at, like you said, I think it was like 1,900 and something when we were chatting earlier.
Yeah. We're pretty consistent on that 2,000 a week mark, which is awesome. Yeah. I'm quite happy with that.
Yeah. And thanks everybody for listening, because that's where the listeners come in. We really don't have much influence over that other than making sure we put these out and try to make them reasonably entertaining and fun to listen to. And then we're slowly marching towards getting bumped up because of the number of followers, again, based on people who follow us. So please follow us, subscribe to your podcatching software, because that actually allows more people to find us. So the more people that listen, the more people that subscribe, the higher up we go. So right now we're kind of getting towards sort of like what I call like the top of the third tier. We're kind of like a third rate astronomy podcast right now. And we're we've got a little ways to go to get sort of up to that next level. But I notice sometimes when I do search in Google that we do appear. But I don't know if it's because, Google just knows that I'm, often looking at the actual astronomy podcasts. But anyway, it seems like we're slowly making our way up there. So that's exciting too.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, we have the 200th episode. We'll record in the winter. So I think sometime this winter. Right now, it's on track to be sort of around the end of February, I think, give or take. Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, for sure. Well, maybe we should have morning champagne.
Morning champagne.
I'm joking.
No offense, I really don't care for champagne. For those in that region of France, my apologies. I know it's quite beautiful over there. I've been, but I'm not a champagne drinker. I'm just like such a simple person. Like, honestly, I just like a decent, gluten-free person. I drink decent gluten-free beer, and I'm pretty happy to drink that and have a bowl of chips. Just like so simple.
Yeah, I'm not too far off. I do enjoy a nice cold beer. Have you ever had a cuvee?
Never had a cuvee.
Yeah, I do. I don't mind those. But anyway, we're going off track here.
Sounds a little fancy for my taste, but anyway, maybe I'll try it sometime. But yeah, it should be good. And once we get into April, we'll be into our third year of doing this podcast called Actual Astronomy. So that's pretty exciting too.
Yeah. Still going strong.
Yeah, it should be good. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and love hearing from people. We're certainly getting lots of emails. I've been hearing from lots of folks, both new listeners and long-term listeners alike. And you've been busy, so the story here is that Shane has been a bit busier at work than usual. My work will get busier during the winter. Hopefully, Shane will be able to come back in a little more and answer some of those at that time. And so I've been answering more of the emails than usual, and hopefully that's been okay with people. And but yeah, it's been really quite amazing just to hear from so many different people and hear what different people are up to. Notice we're having a few more like astro imagers listening, and so that was a bit of a surprise to me. But yeah, I mean, it's great to hear that from folks and to hear what people are doing for astronomy and what interests them in what we're doing. And then we can try to form this podcast around what the listeners are interested in. We just do this for fun, folks. So, it's all for what people are interested in and what we're interested in as well. So that's where we're going with it. Yeah,
for sure.
So anything to add to this, our Christmas Space-tacular podcast, Shane?
No, that's all I have, Chris.
All right. Well, I hope that you'll log lots of great observations in 2022, Shane.
You were waiting the whole episode for that one, weren't you?
I woke up this morning and I thought, I've got it. I've got my one this year. All right. So thanks to you and thanks everybody else for listening. Be sure to subscribe in your podcatching software. And we're always excited to get emails from listeners. So please write to us. Thanks so much for listening. Bye-bye.
Thank you everyone for listening, and we hope you enjoyed the show. If you are interested in more information, would like to contact us, or if you would like to support the podcast, check out our website, actualastronomy.com.